Hold on. Cardi B just sat on a live space, opened her own mouth, and accidentally exposed the entire Stefon Diggs situation in one sentence. Bronx girl wasn't supposed to say what she said. She wasn't supposed to drop that number. She wasn't supposed to name that holiday. But she did, and the internet has been on fire ever since. The receipts she tried to use against a blogger? They turned around and torched her own story. And Stefon, bro, really thought sending that apology was gonna fix it. He just handed her the gas can. Listen, if you don't want to miss the part where she contradicts herself in the same paragraph, smash that like button, tap subscribe, and stay locked in. The Barty gang and the Stefon stans are about to go to war in these comments, and you need to be here for it. Backlash Almanzo, Cardi B herself, hopped on a Twitter or X space and went crazy on a blogger she kept calling fat, sleazy, greasy, widely identified as the account got the scoop. The rant went down this past week, broadcast live to thousands of listeners on X, and inside it she casually confirmed her split from Patriots wide receiver Stefon Diggs while dropping a $300,000 Christmas gift figure on tape. Stefon really thought a Rolex run was gonna keep her quiet. That was the move of somebody who's panicking. Now let's get into the receipts, because what she said next is where the whole thing unravels. And before we go any further, let me paint the room for you. Picture it. It's late. The space is climbing. The listen count is ticking up by the second. Thousands of people, muted, just listening. No music. No DJ. No filter. Just a Grammy-winning Bronx rapper, on her own platform, deciding tonight is the night the dam breaks. Instagram got the scoop coverage confirmed the space was a live, unedited unload, meaning every word, every pause, every yo I'ma keep it real was happening in real time with no edit booth, no manager pulling her off the mic, no PR muzzle. That's the part people are sleeping on. This wasn't a podcast clip. This wasn't a pull quote from an interview. This was unsupervised access to one of the most monitored women in music, and she used it. Instagram clip aggregating the space audio has it preserved word for word. So even if she deletes, the internet already Xeroxed it. That's lesson 1. Once you open the MIC owns you. And the timing? The timing is what makes this go nuclear. We're not talking about a random Tuesday. We're talking about a window where her name is already trending for 3 other reasons. The Diggs split confirmation from the Boston Herald, the lingering felony strangulation case Stefon's still walking into court for per The Guardian, and the Akbar v freestyle that's been bouncing around every barbershop in Atlanta. So when she opened that space, she wasn't entering a quiet room. She was throwing a match into a room that was already soaked in gasoline. And she knew it. That's why this hits different. Alright, let's lay these quotes down chronologically, because the order matters. In her X space this past week, and this is straight from her own mouth, no blog, no source, no people familiar with the situation, Cardi said about the blogger, this fat, sleazy, greasy ass bitch. Always want to, oh my god, I'm gonna follow I'ma follow any bitch that they ever fuck. Bitch, I don't. When I heard her open like that, I knew this wasn't a clapback. This was an unload. That's a woman who's been holding it in for months. Pause on that for a second. Because the way she stumbled through that sentence, I'm gonna follow I'ma follow any bitch that they ever fuck. That's not a scripted bar. That's not a writer's room line. That's a brain mid-overheat, trying to form the insult while the insult is already leaving her body. Linguists call that disfluency, when the emotional load outruns the verbal processing. You hear it in courtroom outbursts. You hear it in 911 calls. You hear it in voicemails left at 3 a.m. by people who shouldn't have called. You don't hear it from people in control. You hear it from people who needed to say it more than they needed to say it well. And Cardi, a woman who literally won a Grammy for rapping at a competitive pace, was tripping over her OWN syntax. That's the tell. The body was driving and the mouth was the passenger. The full space audio is preserved in the YouTube archival upload for anybody who wants to hear the unedited cadence themselves. Then she goes deeper. Same space, same breath. She literally says, every dick that goes inside me, this bitch becomes obsessed with them. This bitch go out her way to become any nigga that I fuck with. Yo. That's not a blog quote. That's a confession dressed up as an attack. She just told the whole timeline she's tracking who's tracking her, which is the opposite of unbothered. But we'll get there. And listen, the word every doing triple duty there. Every dick. That repetition is not a stutter. That's an anchor. She's not just complaining. She's establishing a pattern. She's saying this has happened so many times she can categorize it. That's the language of somebody who's been keeping mental files. Forget the question of whether the blogger is obsessed. The more dangerous admission is that Cardi has cataloged the obsession. To catalog something, you have to have been watching. So even while she's accusing somebody else of surveillance, she's casually revealing that she's been running her own counter-surveillance op for who knows how long. That's how this whole rant flips on itself. The blogger is allegedly watching her? Fine. But Cardi just told us, on tape, that she's been watching the blogger watch her. And that loop, that's the loop she can't admit she's in. Because admitting you're in the loop is admitting you're not above it. Then comes the line. The one the whole internet froze on. Talking about Stefon's other baby mothers, Cardi said, and I'm quoting her clean, if he wanted them, how come he's not with them when I'm not around? When I heard this, I had to rewind it 3 times. 3. Because, brew, that's the most cell phone thing I've heard a celebrity say in 2026. That's not a flex. That's a 911 call. Let me break down why that line is a cell phone, because some of y'all in the comments are gonna miss it. The flex she wanted to land was he picks me, not them. But the flex that actually came out was, I'm so insecure about whether he picks me that I need to publicly rank his other kids' mothers to feel okay about it. Those are 2 completely different sentences, and she said the second one. Stefon has 6 children with multiple women, per page 6 profile of his kids, and the deeper rundown in Chuko's lineup of all 6 baby mothers. 6 kids before Brim. Meaning when Cardi entered this man's life, she didn't enter a clean slate. She entered a roster. And by stepping on that MIC and saying if he wanted them, how come he's not with them when I'm not around? She just announced that she views herself as player 7 in a starting lineup. You don't talk about teammates like opponents unless you secretly think you're the bench. That's the part Stefon should be quiet about, because his silence is the only thing protecting him from looking like a man running a roster with no salary cap. Then she pivoted to the Christmas situation and casually said the next day after the holiday, Stefon allegedly came through with, her words, $300,000 worth of gifts. She dropped that number like it was lunch money. Bro really thought 300 stacks was an apology and not evidence. That's the dumbest flex I've ever heard. You don't volunteer a number like that 6 months later on a live stream if you're healed. You volunteer that number because that number still stings. And the $300,000 number isn't just a number, it's a receipt with a timestamp. Instagram's wrap-up of the space confirms she literally said nearly $300,000 worth of gifts, meaning she rounded up, not down. Healed people round down. Healed people say I don't remember the exact number. Cardi rounded up. That's a woman who has the receipt screenshot somewhere, who has the credit card statement memorized, who has the timestamps on her phone. And remember the context. She had already said publicly, in posts circulating in late December 2025, with the news covering the Separate Christmas controversy, that she was fine with him being elsewhere on the actual day. Then 6 months later, on a live space, the number reappears. That's not fine. That's a woman who quoted you a price you didn't ask for, which means she's been carrying the number around like a brick. And bro, $300,000 of makeup jewelry doesn't go viral by accident. That number is in the algorithm now. Forever. For perspective, earlier in the relationship, the Billboard reporting on Stefon's gifting habit clocked a single diamond-encrusted watch at a $73,000 retail. So the $300,000 Christmas patch wasn't his ceiling. It was him roughly quadrupling the previous biggest gesture in 24 hours. That's not love language. That's panic language. That's a man whose accountant called and whose lawyer called and whose publicist called before he called Cardi. And the audience he was trying to perform that gesture for? It wasn't her. It was the optics. He bought $300,000 of jewelry to outpace a headline. The headline still ran. And here's the one nobody's clipping enough. She told that blogger directly, for every lie you got, I got receipts. Real text messages, real videos, real crying, real tears. Real crying. Real tears. Sis, you just told the whole world you've been crying. Then you turned around 2 sentences later and told us you're not pressed. Nah, you can't have it both ways. That's where you lost the plot. Because here's the contradiction in plain English. I'm unbothered. And I have video evidence of my own tears cannot live in the same monologue. One of those statements has to die for the other to breathe. And by the time the space ended, neither one had died, which means both are walking around now infecting the narrative. Half the internet is screenshotting the unbothered quotes, the other half is screenshotting the crying quotes, and the algorithm is feeding both halves to opposite sides of the same audience. That's how a rant becomes a civil war in the comment section. And the only winner of a civil war in your comments is the platform charging you for the ad space. On top of all that, Stefon himself, when reporters cornered him about a viral parking lot argument with Cardi earlier this year, said, "That's my child's mother. I love her to death. You have to ask her." Per Yahoo Sports. Bro played that off like it was nothing. Bro, you don't get into a screaming match in public with somebody you're great with. The body language said one thing, the press release said another. And let me tell you what Stefon really did with that quote. That's my child's mother. Not that's my woman. Not that's my partner. That's my child's mother. He demoted her on the spot. He took a woman he had been photographed kissing courtside, a woman who threw a reported $1.2 million Super Bowl afterparty for him per The Sun via Yahoo, and he reduced her to a custody label in front of reporters. Billboard's coverage of his "I don't even think that was arguing" follow-up basically doubled down. He tried to make it sound like a misunderstanding, when the video clearly showed a Maryland coffee shop screaming match, per the XXL coverage with the viral footage. And Cardi's own response, that she was hungry, per the Yahoo Entertainment write-up, was the most undignified cover story I've heard from a Tier 1 celebrity all year. Hungry. Hungry. Sister, you were eating his soul in that parking lot, not a sandwich. Now that we got the quotes, let's connect the dots. Watch the pattern carefully, because this is where the math stops mathing. Cardi and Stefon welcomed their baby boy in November 2025, per People. 3 months later, on February 8, 2026, fans clocked them unfollowing each other on Instagram the same night the Patriots lost Super Bowl 60, 29-13. 6 days after that, February 16, 2026, the Boston Herald confirmed Cardi went on record saying it was over. That's the public-facing timeline. But look underneath it. Let's stretch this timeline out for the people in the back, because every single date here has its own knife in it. November 4, 2025, baby Brim arrives. That date is confirmed in E! News reporting on Stefon's reaction and matches the Instagram announcement post. So the relationship at that point looked stable. Then December 25, 2025, separate Christmases, per the E! News coverage linked above. That's Gap 1. January 2026. The felony strangulation arrest tied to a December 2025 incident with a private chef, per CBS Sports Breakdown and the Reddit NFL confirmation thread aggregating the early reports. Gap 2. February 8, 2026, Super Bowl loss, public unfollow. Gap 3. February 13, 2026, Stefon pleads not guilty per The Guardian. Gap 4. February 16, confirms the split. Gap 5. So from baby to breakup confirmation? About 104 days. 3 months and change. A quarter. That's not a slow leak. That's a controlled demolition on a calendar. That Super Bowl loss? Kayana Baba, one of Stefon's other co-parents, the one the Hood Report and the streets call the favorite, was reportedly photographed front row. Front row. While Cardi had just dropped a reported $1.2 million on a Super Bowl afterparty for him. So the question writes itself. Who's actually getting prioritized when the cameras are real? That's terrible optics, brew. The Hood Report tag on Facebook literally calls Kayana his favorite baby mother with their son in tow, wearing his number. Wearing his number. That's not a coincidence outfit. That's a coordinated outfit. Somebody in his camp, a stylist, a publicist, a friend, a him, decided which woman would wear the jersey in the eye of the network cameras. And it wasn't the rapper who paid for the after-party. It was the mother of his other child, per the TikTok aggregator coverage that ran the side-by-side stills. Optics that polished do not happen by accident. Somebody chose. And the somebody who chose was either Stefon, which makes him a liar in the press conference, or his team, which makes him a liar by delegation. Either way, the front row seat told the truth that his quote couldn't. And while we auditing receipts, the $1.2 million figure for the after-party broke first via the Sun Yahoo's pre-Super Bowl reporting and the source's coverage of the rented private venue at $30,000 alone. And here's the dagger. Per the post-Super Bowl Instagram aggregation, Cardi reportedly left the game early, after spending $1.2 million on a party that neither she nor he attended in full. Process that one in your head for a second. Imagine spending $1.2 million on a celebration, watching your man lose the biggest game of his career, watching another woman wear his jersey front row with his kid, and then hosting the after-party for the same man. That's not love. That's a hostage situation with a guest list. Now layer in the Christmas timeline. The Christmas she's still defending 6 months later was the one where, per multiple posts circulating from December 2025, Stefon reportedly spent the holiday with his other children and at least one other co-parent, not with Cardi. That's the holiday the $300,000 gift drop was supposedly trying to patch over. Stefon really thought a 24-hour delay and a Rolex would erase the optics. That's the move of somebody who doesn't have real advisors. The optics math on this is brutal. Cardi gave birth November 4th. That means by Christmas Day, Brim was about 7 weeks old. 7 weeks. A man who chose to spend Christmas elsewhere, with another co-parent, when his newborn is 7 weeks old, is a man who already told you who he was. And the $300,000 next day gift run isn't romance. It's a tax. It's the cost of admission back into the building. And Cardi accepted it, which is the part she still hasn't reconciled with, because accepting the gift is accepting the framing, and the framing is you are a person who can be paid to be quiet for the holidays. That's a receipt that's actually eating her alive on that space. Not what he did. What she took. Then there's the Akbar V piece. Akbar's Pretty and Petty freestyle, which dropped on her Pretty and Petty acapella using Cardi's own beat, per YouTube Ingenious, specifically targeted Cardi's status as a baby mama. Cardi reportedly hit it with a copyright strike, per hot new hip-hop and the rollout coverage, and Akbar responded by jumping right back on it acapella style. So this space rant didn't drop in a vacuum. This dropped while Akbar V was running circles around Cardi on a track Cardi literally owns. Any smart person would have waited for that smoke to clear. But Cardi opened the mic anyway. The Instagram coverage of the copyright strike via Mobbish breaks it down cleanly. Cardi's team hit the original beat version of the freestyle with a swift takedown, and Akbar's response was to immediately drop it a cappella. The a cappella version on YouTube is still up. The Mobbish reel breakdown framed it as Saw Loser energy, and that framing traveled. Even the follow-up YouTube breakdown of the meltdown tied the copyright move directly to the broader rollout of Akbar's Family Over Fame project. Strategically, that's the worst response Cardi could have picked. Copyright strikes look like fear. A cappellas look like confidence. Cardi traded her confidence card for a fear card and Akbar pocketed it. And on top of that, Facebook coverage of the broader accusation shows fans openly debating whether Cardi has been weaponizing copyright as a censorship tool, which is a conversation a rapper of her tier should never want trending under her name. Because once is Cardi using copyright as a muzzle becomes a question fans are asking, the answer doesn't matter. The question itself is the loss. And don't forget the Playboy Carti Geo thread. Per Mobbish on Instagram. Cardi's own social media camp has been quietly addressing rumors that Stefon was entangled with Playboy Carti's ex Geo. The streets are connecting Stefon to Geo and connecting Cardi to Playboy Carti himself with mutual digital footprints. So if that triangle is hovering in the algorithm, Stefon really thought this was the moment to test her? Bro picked the worst possible week. The Mobbish post asking is Playboy Carti's ex Geo at Stefon Diggs' house lit the fuse, and the follow-up post about Cardi's social media liaison addressing it, where the response was simply fake news, basically told you the camp was aware. You don't bother to debunk a rumor that isn't traveling. And you don't issue a two-word denial unless the longer denial would dig you deeper. Meanwhile, Geo herself was already in the middle of her own meltdown calling out Playboy Carti in now deleted IG stories, per the Instagram reel preserved and the stream clip coverage of her response. So now you've got a four-way, Cardi, Stefon, Geo, Carti. 4 nodes. 6 possible edges. Every edge a potential headline. That's not a love triangle. That's a love square. And squares don't reconcile, they fragment. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about the word choice in Cardi's rant, and the word choice tells you everything. Zoom into one phrase, when I'm not around. Not when we broke up. Not now that we're done. When I'm not around. That's present tense framing. That's a woman who's still positioning herself as the owner of the space, even while saying she's vacated it. People who are actually done don't speak in continuous presence language. They speak in past tense. They say when I was with him. Cardi said when I'm not around, meaning the door is still open, even if it's cracked. And Stefon really didn't catch that? That's embarrassing. And this isn't just my read. This is Verbal Forensics 101. Linguists who study breakup disclosures have repeatedly noted that people in genuinely terminated relationships shift to a preterite frame within weeks. They start saying he used to, I would, we had. It's involuntary. The brain literally refiles the relationship into the cold storage drawer of the past tense. People who are ambiguously coupled, separated but not closed, broken up but not detached, stay in the habitual present. They say he does, I always, when I'm around. That's the grammatical residue of unfinished business. And Cardi, on a live space, used the habitual present twice. When I'm not around. When I'm not there. Both grammatical relics of a relationship that her language has not finished filing. The lawyers might be done. The mouth is not. Now zoom into another piece. Her description of where Stefon spent Christmas. She called it somebody else's house where there's other things going on. Other things. Other things. That's diminishment language. That's not how you describe your man's residence. That's how you describe a stranger's address. She's emotionally erasing the property from her mental map in real time, which sounds like growth until you remember she's narrating the erasure live on a space. Healed people don't narrate erasure live. They just stop showing up. And other things is the most poisonous euphemism in the English language. It's the phrase you reach for when the real thing is too heavy to name. When somebody says other things, they are not describing a place, they are describing the place where the betrayal occurred, with the betrayal redacted. The redaction itself is the confession. Because you don't redact what doesn't hurt. The fact that Cardi couldn't bring herself to name what happened in that house, couldn't say his other kids, couldn't say Kayana, couldn't say his old life, means the naming would cost her something. And things you can't afford to name out loud are things you haven't actually processed. That's not unbothered. That's unfinished. Then there's the receipt phrasing. Real text messages, real videos, real crying, real tears. Notice the emphasis. The word real appears 4 times in a single sentence. That's not the cadence of someone with files. That's the cadence of someone trying to convince themselves the files matter. If you had the receipts, you'd post the receipts. The repetition of real is the tell. She's defending the existence of the proof instead of just dropping it. If Stefon had half a brain, he would have noticed this before assuming she's bluffing. But here's the kicker. She might not actually be bluffing. The receipts might be real. The reason she's not dropping them is because they incriminate her too. That's the only reason a woman with that much fire holds the file. Think about that for one more second. Because that's the dragon at the bottom of this whole thing. The receipts probably do exist. Probably. The texts probably exist. The videos probably exist. The teas definitely exist. Those are her own tears in her own phone. Of course they exist. But the reason they stay in the vault is because the moment they leave the vault, the story stops being look what he did and starts being look what we both did. Mutual receipts are a mutual graveyard. Every screenshot has TWO names on it. Every voicemail has TWO voices. Every real crying video has a camera holder, and the camera holder is the one who decided crying was content. So if Cardi dropped the file, she'd also be dropping the file on herself. Which is why the file stays sealed. And which is why the language around the file gets more theatrical the longer she has to defend not opening it. Real, 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 real. 4 reals is the math of a woman who has gone all in on a hand she can't show. And one more. Her line, a double-minded man cannot focus on one thing. That's a James 1 verse 8 reference. That's a scripture pull. That's a woman who has been Googling, journaling, or sitting in therapy reading James to make peace with what Stefon did to her. You don't drop biblical typology about a man you're already past. You drop biblical typology about a man you're still trying to forgive. That's not closure. That's a prayer mid-flight. And Stefon, Bro is out here completely unaware he's the subject of somebody's daily devotional. That's the problem with him. He doesn't read between the lines because he doesn't read at all. And let me tell you something about James 1 verse 8 specifically. That verse doesn't sit alone in the chapter. It sits inside a passage about asking God for wisdom in trials. The full surrounding text talks about being tossed by the wind. So when Cardi pulled double-minded out of that chapter and put it on a man, she didn't pick a random Bible verse. She picked the verse that frames his confusion as the storm and her endurance as the test. That's not vengeance scripture. That's victim scripture wearing armor. She's casting herself as the patient woman waiting for the wind to die down, which means in her own theology of this thing, she hasn't left yet. She's waiting. Waiting and reading. Reading and praying. Praying and live streaming the prayer to thousands of strangers. That's the bind. The prayer was supposed to be private. The space made it public. And once a prayer goes public, it stops being a prayer and starts being a campaign speech for a campaign she swore she wasn't running. Now let's see how the media covered this. Watch how every outlet framed this differently, because the framing is the spin. The Boston Herald framed the breakup as a clean, confirmed split tied directly to Stefon's pending felony strangulation charges, a separate legal matter involving a prior incident, per their February 2026 report, positioning Cardi as the one who walked away from a man with mounting legal heat. That framing makes Cardi look protective and responsible, and honestly, given those facts, that framing tracks. But peep how the Herald's framing also does something subtle. It ties the breakup to a legal liability without ever quite saying she left because of the liability. That's the kind of phrasing a legal team prefers. Legal teams love correlation without causation, because correlation without causation can't be subpoenaed. And the Facebook syndication of that Boston Herald piece reinforced the same framing in shareable form. Whether you think that's protective journalism or strategic distance is your call, but make no mistake, that framing was built in a room. Elle, on the other hand, leaned on an Entertainment Tonight source and framed the split as Super Bowl triggered, citing the public unfollowing as the primary signal. That framing makes it look like a clean PR-driven decoupling, almost choreographed. But remember those baby mema lines from her own space? That's not a clean decoupling. That's a woman still ranking the women in his life. The Elle frame is too tidy for what the audio actually shows. And listen, when a frame is too tidy, it's usually because somebody paid for the tidy. PR-driven decoupling stories are usually planted because the alternative version, the messy version, the front row Kayana version, the $300K gift version, would hurt one of the parties more. The cleaner the magazine frame, the dirtier the real story underneath. That's a media literacy rule that hasn't missed in 20 years. The capital Extra explainer even leaned partially into the split because of Super Bowl tension angle. And again, that frame is convenient because it puts the breakup on an event, not on a pattern. Events end. Patterns repeat. Billboard and Complex both took a different angle entirely. Both outlets focused on Cardi's "I was hungry" excuse for the viral parking lot screaming match earlier this year. They framed it as a quirky, light-hearted celebrity moment. That's the most generous spin possible. And honestly, it's cap. Remember the 4 reals we broke down? Real crying, real tears? Hungry doesn't make a woman cry. A double-minded man does. The Billboard piece literally let Stefon walk away, with "I don't even think that was arguing" as the lead quote. That is wild. You're looking at footage where a woman is visibly yelling at a man leaning against a sports car with his arms crossed, and the headline lets him recategorize the entire interaction as not an argument. That's not journalism. That's stenography. And the thread's aggregation from Complex Music had its own role to play in keeping the narrative lighthearted, even when the source material was anything but. The lesson is the same one every time. The more famous the woman, the more her actual feelings get rewritten into quirky, so the brand pages can keep selling ads next to her face. Yahoo Sports framed Stefon's "We're great" quote as a sign of reconciliation, which is the spin Stefon's camp clearly wants in the air. But that frame falls apart the second you put it next to her space. You can't be great and have your woman dropping $300,000 receipts on a live stream within the same news cycle. One of those statements is a lie, and it ain't the one with the dollar figure attached. And the Yahoo Sports framing is especially convenient because it leans on sports press conventions, the no comment, focus on the field school of athlete coverage, which traditionally gives men the benefit of the doubt that entertainment press never gives women. So Stefon saying we're great gets treated as a stoic athlete keeping his personal life private. Cardi saying $300,000 in gifts get treated as a meltdown. Same news cycle. Same relationship. Two completely different press standards. That gap between the sports press shield and the entertainment press microscope is structural sexism dressed up as beat reporting. The Yahoo follow-up betrayed Cardi B so many times Piece eventually course-corrected with an insider angle that named the betrayal, but notice that the correction came from the entertainment desk, not the sports desk. Different departments, different rules, same outlet. That's the architecture of the spin. And then there's Hood Report's framing. They went straight at Kayana being the favorite and put her front row Super Bowl seat at the center of the narrative. That's the framing that gets closest to the truth, even though it's the messiest. Because if you're being honest about the receipts, the favorite was sitting at the 50-yard line while the wife was on the other side of the stadium. That's the layout that tells the real story. The Hood Report Facebook post used the word favorite plainly, and the streets ran with it. Whether or not that label is fair to Kayana, it's diagnostically useful. It tells you how the audience is processing the seating chart. The audience saw a number on a jersey and decided that's the placement that mattered. And once the audience makes a decision like that, no PR statement from a Patriots locker room is going to unmake it. The Instagram post breaking down the Super Bowl 60 appearance with the baby boy is still up. The companion Instagram post from K. Benji's side named another co-parent, K. Benji, and noted that she also shares a 7-month-old daughter with Stefon. So we're not even talking about one parallel woman at the Super Bowl. We're talking about a stadium full of timelines. Some Stefon defenders in the comments are gonna say Cardi's lying about the $300,000, that she's exaggerating, that it's all for attention. But those are the same people who thought Stefon spending Christmas with another co-parent was just co-parenting. If you still defend Stefon after Kayana's Super Bowl seat, the Christmas itinerary, the $300,000 apology, and the unfollow timeline, you're not analyzing, you're loyal. And loyalty without receipts is just denial in a jersey. And let me name one more thing the defenders skip over. The NFL's own video archive of Cardi celebrating on the field after the AFC Championship. That's NFL.com. That's not TMZ. That's not a tabloid. That's the league's own platform, broadcasting Cardi as the partner of record AT Championship caliber. 2 weeks later, the same woman who was a partner of record at the AFC Championship was watching from a different section, while another co-parent's child wore his number front row. The contrast between those two NFL Week tape rolls is the actual smoking gun. The league filmed the elevation and the demotion on the same network, in the same month, on the same man's career. And Stefon's silence after that demotion is the loudest part of the whole story. But here's what nobody is saying. Something about this whole thing feels OFF. Nah, the culture is reacting emotionally to the rant, but nobody is asking why Cardi felt safe enough to detonate this publicly right now. Here's the angle I'm running with, and this one's gonna ruffle feathers. This isn't a breakup rant. This is a contract negotiation dressed up as a breakup rant. Hear me out. Cardi B has been teasing new music for over a year. She's got brand deals stacked, alcohol partnerships, beauty collabs, an alleged album cycle, tour talk. The whole rollout calendar is loaded. Every single time her personal life crashes the headlines, her professional rollout gets pushed. So when a woman with this much business in motion sits down on a space and rants for 45 minutes, accidentally or deliberately, about a $300,000 holiday number, a Super Bowl betrayal, and 3 other baby mamas, she's not just venting. She's pumping her name into every algorithm in America for 72 straight hours. That's a content event. That's a trending topic. That's free promo with a side of trauma. And the business case is documented. Billboard reported that Cardi has openly said she plans to drop another album in 2026, not just a deluxe, a whole new project. Z100's coverage on Facebook reinforced the same promise. Rolling Stone's deep feature on her rollout strategy literally argues that her life is the album rollout, that the viral skits, the public fights, the press cycles are themselves the marketing engine for the drama. That's not a fan theory. That's a Rolling Stone thesis. And once a publication of that scale puts that frame in print, you have to assume the rollout machine read it and internalized it. Why would the woman who already proved that life is rollout work stop using the cheat code? She wouldn't. She'd press it harder. And let me give you another number to chew on. The Facebook breakdown of Cardi's 2026 endorsement deals lists multiple brands, Blacktop Ranch, Sonic, and others, plus our own hairline, plus a slated 2026 album rollout. Each one of those deals has a quarterly reporting schedule attached to it. Each one of those deals has a marketing calendar baked into the contract. So when Cardi's name trends for 72 straight hours, every single one of those brand partners gets a free impressions report dropped on their desk Monday morning. Free, trauma-stained, but free. From a CFO's perspective, an X-Space meltdown is a $0 line item that generates seven-figure visibility. From an artist's perspective, it's a meltdown. From an executive's perspective, it's a Q report screenshot. Same event. 3 different bottom lines. That's the part that's never going to be admitted on camera, but it's the part that explains the WHY. And Stefon, bro, is the unpaid co-star of this rollout. Here's the villain. Cardi needs to be the hero of our own next chapter. The industry needs Stefon to keep slipping up, needs a baby mama drama, needs the favorite front row seat, needs a Christmas miss, because every Stefon misstep is a Cardi marketing moment. The industry is profiting off Stefon's chaos, and Stefon is too dumb to charge a feature fee. He's a puppet in a rollout that doesn't have his name on the credits. And on top of that, Stefon's business situation is wobbly enough that he can't afford the bad press. Per NBC Sports Boston, his $20.6 million base salary in 2026 isn't fully guaranteed, and per Spotric's contract page, the deal was structured with a $9.7 million dead cap hit in 2026. Yahoo Sports even reported the Patriots eventually moved on, clearing $16.8 million of cap when he was released March 12, 2026. So the man went from a 3-year, $69 million deal, per Reddit RR Fantasy Football's documentation of the Schefter announcement, to a release inside of 12 months. That's not a sports timeline. That's a crash. And the more Cardi's rollout chews up the algorithm, the more his cap room story gets buried, which is convenient for her and devastating for him. Because every news cycle he loses to her is a news cycle his agent can't use to rehabilitate his market value. The relationship is a content asset on her balance sheet and a liability on his. Different accountants, same scoreboard. But here's where it gets darker. Watch the pattern carefully. This is the same playbook Cardi ran during the Offset arc, same monologue, same I'm unbothered framing, same nightclub appearances, same the next one will be private announcement. 2 babies in diapers during the Offset breakup era. A 3rd baby barely 7 months old during the Stefon era. Different man, same script, same teleprompter. And every single time, the public breakup gets followed by a soft launch reconciliation 12 weeks later. The wig changes, the show stays the same. And the receipts on the Offset cycle are public. People's relationship timeline documents a secret 2017 marriage, multiple public splits, a 2020 divorce filing that was later dismissed, and a 2024 divorce filing that came after years of on-again off-again public messaging. News complete timeline piece and today's relationship timeline both walk through the same cycle: cheating allegations, public reaction, reconciliation. Billboard's timeline syndicated on Facebook confirmed the cheating then divorce filing pattern continued into Cardi's eventual 2020 dismissal. And the family law explainer from Weinberg and Schwartz literally took the case study to a legal blog because the on-off pattern was that documented. That's not a love story. That's a docuseries with a recurring time slot. So when you stack the Offset cycle next to the Stefon cycle and they rhyme in 11 different places, the public outburst, the unfollowing, the this time it's really over interview, the soft launch sighting weeks later, the holiday hint, the rollout adjacent to the album, you start to realize the pattern isn't a coincidence. It's a template. And templates work because they are efficient. You don't need new content if the old content still generates impressions. So even if Cardi isn't deliberately running the template, the algorithm is rewarding her for the template, which trains her to keep producing it. Whether she knows it or not, she is the template now. And Stefon walked into a template thinking he was a fresh chapter. Akbar V saw through this. That's why Pretty and Petty Freestyle hit so hard. Akbar didn't attack Cardi's talent, didn't attack her fashion, didn't even attack her bag. Akbar attacked the ONE insecurity Cardi can't armor against, the question of whether Stefon ever actually chose her. That bar, how it feel to be the ugly baby mama left her hubby for a man that barely even want her, that's surgical. That's a triple shot. It questions her face, her decision to leave Offset, and Stefon's actual interest in her, all in one breath. And Akbar didn't even need a beat to land it. Cardi hit her with a copyright strike, for hot new hip-hop, and Akbar jumped back on it a cappella. That's not somebody who's scared. That's somebody who knows she landed the punch. And the structural genius of an a cappella response, let's name it, is that an a cappella strips away every commercial defense Cardi has. Cardi can copyright a beat. Cardi can copyright a sample. Cardi cannot copyright a human voice on an empty track saying true things about her life. So the second Akbar went a cappella, she stepped into a legal zone Cardi's lawyers literally cannot enter. That's why the a cappella YouTube version is still standing. That's why the Family Over Fame rollout piece on YouTube is still standing. It's not just rap strategy. It's a copyright workaround that turned a takedown into a megaphone. Akbar took L on a beat strike, gained W on every IP forum on the internet, and ended up with a freestyle that lives forever because there's nothing left to strike. That's three-dimensional chess in a two-dimensional rap fight. So what we're actually watching isn't a breakup. We're watching a woman who got out-rapped by a smaller artist, got out-maneuvered by her own man, and got out-positioned by her own baby daddy's co-parent at the Super Bowl, trying to win all three battles in one space because she can't afford to lose any of them publicly. The rant isn't anger. It's damage control with a Bronx accent. And here's the part that's gonna sting. Cardi is doing the exact same thing she's accusing the blogger of doing. The blogger ranked the baby mamas in posts. Cardi just ranked them in audio. The blogger pointed out who's around when. Cardi just confirmed who's around when in her own words. Stefon's other co-parents, KJ, Kayana, Pry, all of them, didn't sign up to be ranked on a live space. They were quietly raising babies. Cardi pulled them into a hierarchy on her own breath. So when she swings at the mirror, she cuts her own hand. The blogger isn't the mirror. The blogger is just describing it. The mirror is the man. And Cardi keeps swinging at everything but. And let's be honest about who actually pays the cost when celebrities rank their partner's exes on a live stream. It's the kids. Not the celebrities. Not the bloggers. Not the algorithm. The kids. Brim was, at the time of this space, about 7 months old. The other Diggs children, 6 of them, per page 6 roster, range from older school age to babies barely past the 7-month mark themselves, including the daughter Kay Benji shares with Stefon. Every one of those kids has a teacher who has Twitter. Every one of those teachers has a phone. Every one of those phones is a delivery system for a future playground question. The rant didn't just damage Cardi's image. It loaded a future conversation onto a child who isn't old enough to read yet. That's a cost no rollout calendar accounts for. And that's the receipt the algorithm doesn't show you. The scary part? Stefon doesn't have to say a word. He hasn't. He won't. He doesn't need to. The algorithm doesn't punish men for staying silent. It punishes women for being emotionally honest in public. So Cardi gets dragged for the rant, and Stefon gets to play the calm victim. That's not even fair. That's the rigged scoreboard public black women have to play on every single time. And the only winner in this whole mess is whoever drops new music in the next 2 weeks. Mark that on your calendar. And the structural unfairness here goes deeper than just this one rant. Sports press treats male athletes' silence as professionalism. Entertainment press treats female celebrities' speech as messiness. Same behavior, being a human navigating a public breakup, gets 2 completely different brand prices. He stays quiet. He keeps his endorsements. She speaks. Hairs go up for review. That asymmetry is built into the architecture of fame, and it's been documented across breakup after breakup for the last decade. The audience thinks it's evaluating the relationship. The audience is actually evaluating who is more profitable to keep on a pedestal. And in this case, for now, just for the next news cycle, the algorithm has decided to scratch them both. But the ones it's going to stop scratching first is him. Because his next paycheck isn't tied to going viral. His is. So the silence rewards him in the boring way, and the noise rewards her in the loud way, and the audience never sees the bookkeeping behind either move. That's the rigged scoreboard. Same game, 2 different leagues. And that's the truth they won't tell you. Watch the next move carefully. Nah, this is about to go left. The pattern is becoming obvious now, and I'm gonna lay out 3 paths because one of them is locked in. There is no fourth door. Path 1, the collapse path. Cardi's gonna go quiet for about 10 to 14 days. She's gonna post a glow-up photo from a beach. Stefon's gonna get caught somewhere with somebody. Maybe Kiana again. Maybe a new face. Doesn't matter. The blogs are gonna eat. Then a new piece of evidence is gonna surface. Because evidence always surfaces. A burner like, a tag photo, a leaked DM, a podcast clip. And Cardi's competitive nature is gonna force her back to the MIC. When she comes back, Stefon is gonna look desperate trying to spin it because he's already used his weird great line. You can only play that card once. The silence is hiding behind right now is gonna hurt him more than any diss track could, because the silence is gonna be interpreted as guilt by every single person who's been watching. And we already have a preview of the collapse path. By the way, the YouTube piece Cardi B caught arguing with Stefon Diggs days after reunion from May 13th, 2026 literally shows them publicly arguing again after the breakup was supposedly confirmed. And Billboard reporting that Stefon was spotted at Cardi's DC show after the split rumors broke proves the orbit hasn't actually closed. So the collapse path isn't a prediction, it's a description. It's already happening. The clean break never existed. There's been a coffee shop screaming match in Maryland, a concert appearance, a viral reunion, another public argument, and then this space. The cycle is already on its 3rd lap. Anyone telling you they don't know if Cardi and Stefon will reconnect again hasn't been reading the timestamps. The reconnect ion is the loop. The breakup is the break in the loop, and the breaks have been getting shorter every cycle. Path 2, the revenge path. And this one's the wild card. If Akbar V drops a follow-up, and let's be real, Akbar's whole family over fame rollout is built for this moment. Cardi's gonna be forced to respond on a track, not on a space. And that is where the real war starts. Because Cardi rapping back means she's admitting the bar landed. We saw what Cardi did when Nicki tried her years ago. But Akbar isn't Nicki. Akbar's got nothing to lose. No major label to protect. No brand deals tied to keeping the peace. Cardi is not ready for an artist who fights from the bottom. If that response track drops, Stefon becomes a footnote in his own breakup. The whole story shifts from did he cheat to can Cardi still rap? And brew, that's a whole different zip code of L. The fights from the bottom framing is important, so let me linger on it. When 2 artists at the same T go at each other, both have brand deals to protect, both have publicists scripting the bars, both pull punches because the punches cost money to throw. When an artist with nothing to lose punches up at an artist with everything to lose, the asymmetry favors the underdog every time, because the underdog can say true things without checking with legal first. Akbar already proved she'd take a copyright strike on the chin and respond a cappella, per the mobbish copyright strike Instagram post. That's the move of an artist whose career math is any attention is up. Cardi's career math is wrong attention is down. Those are not symmetric incentives, and they never fight fair. So if Akbar swings again, and her family over fame album is structurally designed to keep her in the conversation, Cardi will be choosing between 2 losses. Silence, which looks like fear, or response, which legitimizes the contender. There's no third option. That's a checkmate-shaped doorway. Cardi's stuck unless she picks new music as the deflection. Path 3, the chess move path. And this is the one Cardi's team is praying for. New music drops within 14 days. A single. A collaboration. A surprise EP brand campaign attached. If that happens, you'll know, and I mean know, that this rant was a controlled detonation. The space wasn't a meltdown, it was a marketing event. And Stefon, 5 years from now, people will look back at this exact week as the moment Stefon's relevance died because he became somebody else's promo cycle. The culture's gonna move on without him, and there's nothing he can do about it. The girl he caught, she's catching new bags. The girl he embarrassed, she's about to be on every radio station in the country. That's the cruelest kind of revenge, when your ex turns your worst moment into her best quarter. And the chess move path has historical precedent in her own catalog. The Rolling Stone feature on her rollout philosophy explicitly framed her life as the rollout for Am I the Drama? Which means the playbook of convert chaos to chart position isn't a hypothesis, it's documented strategy from a legacy magazine. OK Player's coverage of the album's run noted the project went platinum on the basis of singles like Up and WAP, songs that themselves rode public moments to chart positions. And Music Life magazine's coverage of the Imaginary Player's single rollout showed the precedent for dropping a single inside a media storm. So if a new song arrives in the next 14 days, you're not seeing a surprise. You're seeing page 3 of the playbook. The only people who'll be surprised are the people who thought the rant was the story. The rant was the front cover. The song is the chapter. But the Silent War path is the one I'm watching hardest. Because the truly dangerous version of Cardi isn't the loud one. It's the one that goes quiet, locks the door, drops the album, gets the bag, and never says Stefon's name in an interview ever again. That version of her is the one that wins. And if she clears the next 60 days without crashing back into him on a soft launch vacation photo, that's the actual headline, not the rant, not the receipts, not the $300,000. The headline will be the one she didn't post. And let me tell you why that Silent War version is the dangerous one. Because every other version is a version Stefon can react to. He can deny the rant. He can deny the receipts. He can wait out the news cycle on the $300,000 story. But what he can't do is respond to silence. Silence has no door. Silence has no quote. Silence has no caption a publicist can spin. If Cardi goes silent and lets the album do the talking, every single time Stefon's name appears in a Genius lyric tag or a Pitchfork review, it'll be on her terms. She'll get to be the author, and he'll get to be the vice. He'll spend the next year hearing himself referenced in songs he can't sue and panels he can't sit on. That's the version of revenge that doesn't end in a press release. That ends in a posthumous footnote in his career. And the cruel beauty of it is that he won't even realize it's happening until he tries to book a podcast appearance, and the booker passes because his entire current relevance is Cardi's ex. That is the long game. And the woman who built the I the drama rollout out of her life knows the long game cold. Whatever happens, one thing's clear. Stefon already lost. He just doesn't know yet. Because here's the math the world hasn't done out loud yet. He got released by the Patriots after a year, per Spotrick's release record and Yahoo Sports reporting. His walking into a felony arraignment per The Guardian's February 2026 report, though notably, NBC 10 Boston later reported he was found not guilty on both the felony strangulation and misdemeanor assault charges, which protects his legal record but doesn't undo the brand damage. He's got 6 kids spread across multiple co-parents per the Page 6 rundown. He's got a Super Bowl loss on the books. He's got a viral parking lot fight on the books. He's got a $300,000 gift receipt being read on a space he can't subpoena. And now he's the unpaid co-star of his ex-girlfriend's album rollout. From a pure brand value angle, every single one of those is a markdown. From a public perception angle, every single one of those will be Googleable for the rest of his playing career. And his playing career, per the contract math NBC Sports Boston broke down, is now an open question. Meanwhile, and this is the part that's gonna make Stefon's camp throw their phones, the woman who he allegedly disrespected at Christmas is operationally healthier than has been in 18 months. She has the active album catalog with Am I the Drama still selling. She has the endorsement portfolio that Facebook coverage of her 2026 deals confirmed is really elite. She has the Billboard confirmed promise of another 2026 album. And per the MPU Facebook syndication of Insider Chatter, there's an active tease for a major summer 2026 release. She has a Bronx flag wardrobe, a baby boy with a viral nickname per the Yahoo Entertainment Baby Brim feature, and a space that just generated free promotion across every single tabloid in America. He has a verdict, an unemployment line in the NFL, and an ex-girlfriend with a microphone. So when I tell you Stefon already lost, I don't mean he lost the breakup. I mean he lost the bookkeeping of the breakup. He lost the algorithm. He lost the news cycle. He lost the brand math. He lost the seating chart of his own life, because the woman who paid for his Super Bowl afterparty is now the woman whose name his daughter will Google in 12 years. And the only way that math reverses is if he drops something that pulls the algorithm back to his side, a comeback season, a charity arc, a redemption interview. He has none of those scheduled. She has 4 projects on deck. That's not a breakup. That's a closing sale. And Stefon is on the wrong side of the register. And the kicker, the truly diabolical kicker, is that this isn't even the loudest week of the year for Cardi. Wait until the next single drops. Wait until the next interview. Wait until the next time somebody asks her about Stefon on a red carpet, and she give the most innocent 5-word answer of her career, and that 5-word answer trends for 48 hours. That's when you'll know the rollout was real. That's when you'll know the space wasn't a meltdown. That's when you'll know who actually walked out of this thing with their hands clean, and who walked out covered in their own fingerprints. Stefon thought he was dating a rapper. He was actually walking through a chapter in somebody else's book. And now the book is being printed. And his name is in the index. And he doesn't even get a royalty check. That's the cost of underestimating a woman whose entire job is converting noise into number ones. That's the cost of thinking we're great was a press strategy when it should have been a prayer. That's the cost of letting a $300,000 gift run be your proof of love, when receipts are the only love language the algorithm understands. Stefon already lost. He just doesn't know yet. But the next 60 days are gonna teach him, one trending topic at a time. So tell me in the comments, is Cardi actually done this time? Or are we gonna be right back here in 14 days watching her soft launch a vacation photo with Stefon's hand on the lower back? Because the receipts say one thing, and the pattern says another, and you'll know the pattern doesn't lie. Drop your verdict. Smash that like if you saw the contradiction the second she said it. Hit subscribe because the second Akbar V drops a follow-up, and she's gonna drop a follow-up. We are gonna break that bar down line by line, and you do not want to find out about it from somebody else. Be loud in the comments. The algorithm is watching. The receipts are coming. They always come.